Hey guys, Ranger here, and welcome back to another very special reaction and review. And for the start of this new series, I thought I would start with the new Disney series DuckTales. Now, as you can tell, this is episode 2. I already watched episode 1. No, it is not up on my channel, but I did watch episode 1, and so, like MLP and like the Disney cartoons, I did not start with the first episode on my channel. It wasn't until later that I started. However, with MLP, which it was much later, and with the Mickey cartoons, it was much later before I started checking those out on my channel. But with this right here, I'm starting with episode 2, so don't worry. So don't go spamming me with comments, where's episode 1? That's the reason why there is no episode 1. I've already watched it. However, I have not seen episode 2, so let's go ahead and start with episode 2, which is Daytrip of Doom. So, now, I already know David Tennant voices Scrooge McDuck, and I love this series already, but I haven't seen episode 2 and beyond, so let's start. Start the video in 3, 2, 1. There's a few different things that I said before with my initial review. There's a few things that I said that I noticed with the original first episode of DuckTales whenever I was watching it. And that is that this is highly reminiscent of the original DuckTales. That this is very much like the Disney comics. Whenever it comes to Scrooge McDuck comics, the two most prominent names for me that comes to mind are Carl Barks and Don Rosa. And to see some of the things play out in this, and the background references, pictures, and things hanging in McDuck Manor, and the style of the kind of a comic book that they went with, it really makes me think of the Disney comics with Carl Barks and that Carl Barks and Don Rosa did, and I love how that pays homage to that as well, and has some really good references and things to the McDuck past, and just how that it's played out, what it's done. I love how that it's done that, and I cannot credit the animators or the writers enough for, or the artists and writers enough for including the references to that. But again, of course, David Tennant voices Scrooge McDuck, and honestly, I love how that David Tennant does voice Scrooge, because David Tennant, he has that natural accent, and so to hear him voicing Scrooge in this is really, really awesome. And not just that, but David Tennant, he was my favorite Doctor. He was my favorite Doctor. The Doctor will always be my favorite Doctor. Will always be the 10th. And it's cool to see him carrying on now the Scrooge McDuck tradition and voicing Scrooge. And I love his performance as Scrooge. It really does fit. It's comical, and it's kind of an updated thing. And like, I can't help but now hearing Scrooge and hearing David Tennant, I cannot help but think to myself, this guy has a TARDIS hidden somewhere in this manor. There's a TARDIS. There is a TARDIS sitting there somewhere, and in a drawer or in a chest somewhere is a sonic screwdriver. I can't help but think that. Like, this is like after the, like, it's a funny headcanon, but like after the 10th Doctor reincarnate, after he regenerated into the 11th Doctor, part of him became Scrooge McDuck. That's kind of what I imagine. Part of him became Scrooge. But I really enjoyed this episode. And of course, I remember the first episode also showed a reference at the end of it to Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mom, which hasn't been shown. I mean, the concept of the Duck family hasn't really been shown whatsoever before, especially in the traditional media. Comic media, maybe a bit more, but it hasn't really shown anything else either. And so to actually see that focusing on that history here, it's really cool. And also, the episodes of DuckTales are serialized. They continue from each other. You can compare these episodes to that of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, MLP, and although there isn't any huge, big, exciting adventures that happen in every single episode, even though there even though sometimes it may not seem that the episodes are continuing, also like Kim Possible, the episodes they do continue with that story, and I love that this does it, and I also love that this series does focus as much on story as it does. And and every single character for me personally is very, very interesting. Even though Huey, Dewey, and Louie are very much redesigned in this series and each have a different personality and a different voice, I actually really like it. Yeah, naturally, I still love the original DuckTales. I still love the original DuckTales. But I can honestly say I love this series as well. I love this series in its own way. I don't love it in the same way that I love the original DuckTales. I love this one in its own unique way, and it's definitely a really special series for me, and definitely one of my favorite of the Disney animated series that is actually going on. But I can say, for me personally, every single character is very, very unique. For Scrooge, for some of these characters, we kind of grew up with these characters: Donald, Scrooge, Huey, and Louie. Huey and Louie have an updated concept for this, and they kind of each have different personalities. Mrs. Beakley, honestly, as much as I like Mrs. Beakley in the first series, I gotta say, I freaking love the way she is here. And Webby, I love her personality in this. I love the kind of wild, erratic nature that she has, and just the kick butt attitude. I mean, this girl doesn't really show any fear. She's strong. She has a strong will. She has a good head on her shoulders. I mean, this girl can kick butt, and she's not the damsel in distress. I mean, this girl, she is strong, and she shows that independence about her, and I love it. I love what they did with her character here, too. And, again, it's an interest. Mrs. Beakley is just freaking awesome. I mean, I gotta say, she's freaking awesome. I love the way that, I do love her design. I love her voice actress, and I love the way they did her personality, and just the way that, just the vast gimmicks with her personality, with her attitude, with the knowledge that she maintains, and how sometimes she can be laid back, but she can also kick butt too. And I really like that, and you can tell where Webby gets it from. But again, this episode right here was very, very interesting in its story. There's a few different things. There was actually several different things going on. First off, the most prominent feature of the episode was the fact that Webby still wanted to hang out with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. She's been cooped up in this mansion for a long time, hasn't really been exposed very much to the outside world, and so here are Huey, Dewey, and Louie who want to try to expose her to the world and try to be a normal kid. However, she's not normal. She's her own unique normal. I mean, okay. First off, the term normal. What is normal? There really is no normal. Some people have the belief that if you're normal, that you fit into a set group of people. I consider that being boring. Normal is being yourself. Normal is being your own way, doing your own thing. And Webby, she's not normal in the normal sense. She's awesome. She's freaking awesome in the way that she is. And honestly, I wouldn't have her character any other way. And the concept that Huey and Louie originally, they wanted to try to take her to this fun zone, which is kind of like Chuck E. Cheese or whatever. And of course, hijinks ensues, and it turns out Webby, she's very different. She's ecstatic. She's excitable. And she's crazy, but it works for her. I mean, she's a great character, and she tries to be normal, but it goes against her natural persona, and it backfires for her. And her natural way of doing things kind of clashes with the so-called normal way that people do things, and she is able still to have fun doing her own way. But Huey and Louie, I mean, they know that this is Webby, this is how she is normal, and so they can't be upset with her. And how can you be? I mean, this is how she is. Expecting somebody to differentiate from their natural persona like that, and to try to fit in, yeah, it's the basic gimmick of you trying to change somebody for the worse. You're trying to change them into something that they're not, into someone that they aren't. Something and someone that goes against their natural character, and I'm really happy that they didn't go with that full gimmick here, and that they tried to change her. Instead, they completely accepted her for the way that she was. And of course, Webby, she still felt bad because she kind of jeopardized a few different things with the Duck Trio, and she uh, she she just wanted to hang out, have fun, and she was afraid that the boys would be upset at her and wouldn't want to hang out with her because of the difference with how she is. She wanted to be normal, but it was here, of course, in this episode that she realizes she comes to fully accept, I think, that she is not normal in the so-called normal sense. She's different. But Hugh and Louie completely 100% embraced that. They were completely accepting of that aspect about her personality, and they didn't want her any other way. And so they decided, you know what, they can take advantage of that. And so she was able to help them and show how much of a strong character that she was. Another concept, of course, is Donald still hanging out at the mansion, which is a different departure from the original series. Whereas with the original series, Donald was on a naval aircraft carrier. Here he's at the mansion. No mention of Donald being in the Navy is even mentioned, and he's actually present here. So that much is actually interesting, that he's living in the mansion here with them. He's present, which I do understand because it sets up the gimmick for the Good Pasta. Because in the first episode, it introduces the concept, and even in the intro, that Donald is still present in some of these adventures. In the original series, he wasn't really present in but just a few of them. Here, he's supposed to be present in more of the adventures that the gang goes on, or it builds up to that. And so, yeah. Now this is supposedly called a reboot, but actually, I don't really call it a reboot, to be honest, because to me, it's just a new iteration. It's like a new telling. It's an alternate version of DuckTales, but I mean, with a whole different story and a completely different path. And a reboot is kind of like a remaking in my mind. Some people have referred this to a reboot, but no, I consider this a reimagining of, if anything. It's a new iteration. It's a new concept. It's taking the original formula, tweaking it, modifying it, and working in like a different and similar humor. Changes to the characters' personalities, new jokes, gags, references to Disney's past. There's a lot mixed into this. And so, in a sense, it's kind of like taking a traditional recipe and mixing in some new spices, some new formula. And the original is still the original. And to me, it's unfair to try to compare the two in terms of which one is best and, which one is good. I do compare the two in terms of the way that the story was set up and how the characters were. But comparing them, I don't think it's fair to compare it and say, say the original is better, this one's better. I don't think it's fair, because the fact is the original is still the original, and it still exists. It's still out there. It's not being taken away. Disney's not shunning away from that and pretending like it doesn't exist. It's one of the best animated series that Disney did. Many people feel that way, and it's part of Disney's heritage. And so, to think that this series is supposed to replace it, or it's supposed to be better, no, it's not. This is just, to me, in my mind, to me, in my mind, this is just a reimagining, a retelling of the story, but adding some new spices in to mix things up, and you get a new recipe. You get a brand new recipe. You still have the original, but you also have this new interesting recipe that blends blends a lot of the original formula, but it also mixes in some new ingredients to mix things around. And so I really do support that. I mean, and I love what the writers and the animators are doing with the show, not just story-wise, but visually as well. And I love the animation for it. I love that it's not CGI, and I love that it's made in the sort of almost traditional animation or like flash animation style. I love the animation that they went with for the series, and I'm glad. Like I said, I love it. If they had went with CGI, I wouldn't have loved it as much. I'll be completely honest. But because they did go with the animation that they chose, like with the Three Caballero series, I love that they went with that. It works and it looks great. Now another element also is the fact that Donald and Mrs. Beakley, they kind of had a bit of a quarrel between them. And honestly, Mrs. Beakley was right. Donald was taking advantage of a few different things. He was trying to do his normal thing. I don't know if he was doing it to be normal, or like doing his own thing, or if he was doing it just to show Mrs. Beakley, I can do what I want, I will do what I want, screw you. And either way, it backfired. And Mrs. Beakley, she knew the dangers of what Donald was doing, and it literally backfired. Literally backfired. Donald, his backside almost caught fire. So yeah, but they learned to compromise. Donald realized that, needs to listen to Miss Webby. Sorry, needs to listen to Mrs. Beakley, if nothing else, for the concept of avoiding a potential fire hazard and getting arrested for arson. And Mrs. Beakley realized, and to my surprise, Donald can fight. That much I was not expecting. I was seriously expecting Donald to get his butt kicked. I know Donald has a temper before, and I know he's kind of fought before, but I honestly thought in this series, here at that scene at the dock, I would have probably bet money that Donald was going to step aside and let Mrs. Beakley take care of it because she could kick those two Beagles' butts. No, she didn't even have to lay a finger on them. Donald just took care of them both. That shocked the crap out of me. Although I like it that whenever Donald gets riled up, that he's able to fight. I do like that. It makes him more of a formidable opponent, and not a weak character, physically. So I really do like that, and I also like the fact that Donald was worried about his family, and he was angry at the Beagles. He was worried enough that he was actually able to kick butt. I don't like the gimmick. Actually, I hate the gimmick. Whenever somebody is in danger or something, or someone else that someone cares for is in danger, and they just kind of step aside and let somebody else do it. I don't like that. I don't like whenever I see that done. And so here to actually see Donald be willing to fight these guys because his nephews were taken, yeah, I love it. I love it. And of course, there was another gimmick of the Beagle Boys. The Beagle Boys introduced here as well, and Ma Beagle, and there was a very interesting dynamic between every single one of the Beagles, and one of them, he was a visionary, and he had his own kind of ideas for different things. And it's a very interesting thing. Ma Beagle, she's old enough, she's wiser, she has more knowledge about Scrooge than the other Beagle does. But I have to give him props for the ideas and being the visionary that he does. I know he's a bad guy, but he's still a comical bad guy, and he's not one of the bad guys that you can fully directly hate. I mean, there are bad guys that are created to hate their freaking guts, and then there are bad guys that are created that, even though you hate them, you gotta love them too. And this Beagle here making the mention to his mom, why can't we have what they have? I can't help but feel sorry for him. I mean, like, his mother tells him to shut up because, I mean, his plan backfired, and yeah, I know she expected him to be successful and everything, but yet she still got duped herself, so honestly, she has no room to talk. Story-wise, I did love this episode. It was fun and energetic and lots of humor in this, and I really do love this series. I really do. And there's a few different things that I want to point out, and I will probably go into more detail about it. This particular segment, whenever Scrooge takes the dart gun or Nerf gun from Dewey and tells him, don't yell at your opponent. Basically, just sneak up on him and shoot him anyway. Shoot him without letting your opponent know you're there. Honestly, that's true. That is really true. Because I've seen that gimmick before. And, like, I've seen it before in anime. I've seen it in other shows and movies. Whenever a character would be trying to attack, and whenever they get half the distance to the bad guy, to whomever that they're trying to attack, they suddenly decide to go, "Ah!" And the enemy just turns around and sees them and delivers a sucker punch to them. And my first thought is always, dude, why can't you be quiet? Just shut the freak up, okay? Sneak up on him. I love the fact that 99% sure that that is not directed at those scenarios in TV and film, but it is a good reference. It is a great unintentional reference because it's legit true. Never yell at your enemy. Never scream or like, you're not Goku. You're not trying to build up power before you attack. So do not do that. Just sneak up on him. And I love that fact. And at first I thought Scrooge was going to get angry at the boys for playing, but I love how he took the gun, gave him some wise, sage advice about how to sneak up on your opponent, and handed him the gun like, here, do your thing. I love that. I freaking love that. And like I said, Webby, yeah, this girl, she's definitely already one of my favorite characters in the series. My most favorite character in the series is Scrooge, honestly. But Webby, she's probably second behind Scrooge right now, just because of how the fact that she can kick butt, and she's just so freaking cool with that. And going over the intro as well, the intro is one thing, like I said prior, the intro has a lot of good references to, I mean, the whole intro is a comic book. And we see other characters. I don't remember this character up here in the car, but this other character, Gyro Gearloose, and the little robot over here. And again, Launchpad McQuack is introduced as well. We see references to Disney's past, some of the old Disney things in this particular series. As it progresses, I mean, we see the comics portrayed in the background, and it's a tiny, and as a gearhead, I gotta say, the Range Rover, my gosh, this old Range Rover. Yeah, I like this old Range Rover. And the detail for this Range Rover is exquisitely done because, I mean, it still maintains the boxy style. And the unique things about this particular segment with this is an accurate depiction of a Range Rover. And, of course, you'll notice on this particular scene here, the tires on the left side, there is no axle. There is no axle. There doesn't appear to be a drive shaft. There doesn't appear to be a steering linkage, or shocks. Anything on this left side, you could consider that an animation error, but it's a still shot. It's a quick moment, so of course it's not present. So I don't care. Doesn't matter. The thing also to notice, though, that I want to point out is with this particular Range Rover or Land Rover, is this is the old boxy style, and I love how during this segment, whenever the vehicle is moving, the body of the vehicle remains stationary. There is no bend, there's no bending or misshapen sections. The only thing that moves is the shocks, and so like a vehicle, it's realistic, and I love how that they designed it and gave it a nice bounce. And like the only thing that bounces is the shocks and tires for this vehicle. And you also notice that the tires kind of compress and they have a bit of a squishy design to them. Meanwhile, the body itself remains stationary. I love that. It's a nice detail, but I really do like how that they did that. And the intro for this has the little tiny dots in the letters. Now, I'm not sure if that is just the design for that, but I'm also kind of thinking because sometimes you'll notice in comic books, you'll notice the tiny little dots in the coloring in comic books, and so I'm wondering if this could possibly be a reference to that as well. And this moment, whenever Louis sees Donald, sees his uncle and Mrs. Beakley, and he's like, so are they going to kiss or what? Again, if you read fan fiction, yeah, I'm sure they kiss, and I'm sure there's a lot more that goes on. Oh dear, I don't want to think about that. But yeah, I love that because that's kind of a comical gimmick. That's a comical thing whenever we see two people kind of arguing or getting close like that, and they're arguing, and the first thing that we think is, now kiss. I love how they kind of went with that little gimmick here, and I love how just mellow and kind of uneasy and calm that Louis and the rest of them are about it. It's like yeah, Daisy is present, I'm sure, not here, but like, yo, Dad, did you forget Daisy? And another little thing here also is, and Donald said, I answer to no one. Boy, if Daisy heard him say that, he would be 6 feet under right now. And this still shot with Mrs. Beakley and Donald, this castle. I'm pretty sure, I keep thinking that this particular castle was seen in one of the comic panels in one of the Disney comics by Don Rosa. And the fact that Webby can send a hacky sack through a tree like a freaking bullet hole and cause the tree to collapse. Dang, girl. Like, you could have done it on the Beagles and they would be a problem. They would not be a problem ever again. Ever again. And I forgot to mention it whenever I saw Webby climbing up the side of the manor. But my thought at that point was, yo, she's been taking lessons from Spider-Man, hasn't she? And it's an interesting gimmick. I know some people may not like the concept that the Duck Duo, or sorry, Trio, are wearing different costumes. But for Louie here, it works because again, how else can you pull the hood up and tighten it so that you can only see your eyes? I've done it. I've done it. I have done it, especially whenever it's freaking cold. Okay, and Donald rocking out on the houseboat. At first, I thought this was. I thought that this little segment here with Donald have cooking out. I did think at first that this might have been a little reference to Quack Pack, to a scene in Quack Pack. However, I don't think it was. But the music that they played at this segment, I'm totally okay with. A-okay. That's my jam. And of course, I have to point out the background scene here with the kids playing in the alley. The police tape line, the police tape around the crime scene, and the fact that they're playing hopscotch on a chalk body. Yeah, that's funny. That is hilarious. And this character here, I forgot her name, but this character, she was cute, and her voice actress, also really like her voice actress. For a brief character appearance, really good job. Really, really good job. I like also how that, like, even these small time characters here that may just get a small brief appearance, how that, you know, they actually, I mean, there's actually some really good detail. I love how that even with these smaller, you know, background character appearances here and with their appearance, it's not just a one-off thing. I mean, there's a lot of detail put into the characters, and just from the way the characters are designed, how they act, and even the voice, you can kind of get an idea of how this character is supposed to be. Maybe get an idea for the character's story, their life, their personality. And so, yeah, I think it's really cool and really cute and really awesome that these characters, even though they're just featured briefly, there's still a lot that you can hear and see with these characters. And, like, it adds more depth to the world. It's not just, you know, like, the main characters of the show are not just the main characters of focus. It's kind of like, it's basically like MLP, if I may compare it to that, you know, every other character is featured within the world, but you know every single character has their own life, their own story to tell, and it's not just bland background characters that nobody gives a crap about. There's a lot of detail and effort also put into the voice. Like, these are not just plain generic voices, like monotone voices. No, I mean, there's some really good detail put into the character designs, and there's some really good detail put into the character designs, and there's some really good focus on the voice actors. I mean, the voice actors did a great job with voicing these characters here, and like I said, it really adds a lot of detail and attention to these characters. And so I really, and like this character Jane here as well, just, again, it's another example of that. I mean, the voice actress was good, the animation for the character was good, and just the way that they had her character be was also really good. And I really love just how that even these small characters here, there's a lot of stuff going on with them, and adds more depth to the world itself. And that little moment whenever Mrs. Beakley makes a mention that she's a spy, I knew she wasn't joking. I knew the moment she said it, she wasn't joking. Donald thought she was joking. I knew the moment she said it, she was not joking, because there is no way in heck this woman knows what she knows, and is the way she is, and can do what she can do, and not have the secret background that and not have the secret background that she does. She's awesome, And I'm wondering if there might be an episode in the future that may go into more depth about her character, possibly. And of course, the ending for the show itself is also again focusing. It's a comic book style, showing different segments throughout the episode. I mean, showing just different comic panels, different locations. And I love the fact that it's as vast as it is. And again, like I said, it's almost like it plays out like a comic book, because like the whole thing in a way, because the end, like the opening is comic based, the ending is comic based, and like I said, I really strongly myself feel that these are really great homages, intentional or unintentional, to the amazing work by Carl Barks and Don Rosa. And like I said, whenever it comes to the Duck comics, if you're a Scrooge fan like I am, the two artists, the two people that stand out the most for me whenever I think of Scrooge McDuck comics, Carl Barks and Don Rosa. Those are the two that stand out the most for me. And so whenever I think of them, I mean, whenever I think of Scrooge, I think of them. And so, yeah, it really does work. And again, there are visual references in these episodes to Disney's past, and I love that they did that. I really do. But again, I really do love this series. It's fun, and I'm really curious as to what's going to happen in the future. And like I said, I know there was a mention about Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mother, as well as Donald's sister, Della, I think it was, or Donna. But I'm really curious as to what's going to happen. And again, the DuckTales, I'm wondering about. I mean, I know there's plenty of episodes ahead, but I remember seeing something about Goldie being seen as well, and I'm wondering also about Magica. I think she was also recently introduced. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what progresses in the series. But I gotta say, I love this series. I really do. It's a fun series. And yeah, I still love the original DuckTales, but I love this series as well. So again, Disney, everybody that worked on this series, everybody that is working on the series, writers, animators, voice actors, animators, painters, everybody that worked on the series, and Disney for greenlighting it. Thank you all so much for this great series. It's great to see this series, as well as Three Caballeros as well, and the Mickey cartoons going on. It's about freaking time that these characters actually get some spotlight again, instead of letting everything be the basic generic live action teen sitcom stuff. It's great to actually see stuff like this again. So again, Disney, thank you guys. Thank you all so much for making this series. And again, to everybody watching, hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully, and anything you want to add, please feel free to do so in the comments, and thank you guys again for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video that I do. Take care.